today, if you hear the voice of the Lord, harden not your hearts. My dear brothers and sisters, on this Wednesday of the first week of the Lenten season, the Church invites us to reflect upon the Gospel according to St. Luke. Luke chapter 11, verses 29 to 32. And it reads as follows. At that time, when the crowds were increasing, Jesus began to say, "This generation is an evil generation. It seeks a sign, but no sign shall be given to it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah became a sign to the men of Nineveh, so will the Son of Man be to this generation. The Queen of the South will arise at the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them. For she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here. The men of Nineveh will arise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, something greater than Jonah is here." The Gospel of the Lord. Brothers and sisters, in this Gospel passage, Jesus seems to be very harsh, stern, and a little bit exasperated. And I say this because of the very first words that Jesus utters in the narrative of today, when he says, "This generation is an evil generation." Even though he spoke to the people of that time, I am convinced that this sentiment is valid and relevant even to our generation, the generation of today. Ours is a generation that is somehow away from God. We are a generation that seeks to find happiness and pleasure in all other things except God. He then proceeds and says, "It seeks a sign, but no sign shall be given to it except the sign of Jonah." Much like Jesus' time, the same evil surrounds us today. Many people still demand the proof of God's existence, and they wish to see miracles in order to believe that God really exists. The irony is that out of God's benevolence and love, we are given plenty of proof through His Word in Holy Scriptures, through the tradition that has been preserved for more than 2,000 years. And for us Catholics, through the teaching magisterium of the Universal Church. But still, this prideful generation demands a sign. However, although Jesus is not very happy in the Gospel passage of today, there is some hope in it. When he speaks of Jonah, we all can recall from the Old Testament that Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And perhaps this prefigures the Son of Man being dead for 3 days, but rising again after that 3 days. Therefore, my dear friends, perhaps the most fundamental question each of us should ask today is, do I believe in God? Or am I like the rest of today's generation, demanding signs from God in my disbelief? I think instead of demanding signs of God's existence, we should demand signs on how to become better Christians, on how to attain the kingdom of heaven. And perhaps this Lenten season that we are given by the Church is the best time to reflect on this theme of coming back to God through three traditional pillars: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Today, if you hear the voice of the Lord, harden not your hearts. Amen.
For the light of your love.